All right. Well, good evening and welcome to Kansas City Ballet's Dancer Chat. This particular chat is all about the incredible upcoming North American premiere of Val Caniparoli's Jekyll and Hyde. I am Devon Carney, Artistic Director for Kansas City Ballet, and we are thrilled to have Val Caniparoli actually with us tonight to be the moderator of a conversation with three of the leading dancers of this production. With us tonight are Naomi Tanioka. Maybe you want to say hello, Naomi. And
Hi.
hey. Also, Andrew Vecseri is here with us.
Hello.
And there you are. And Paul Zusi.
Hello.
And thank you, all three of you, and four of you, Val, as well, for being a part of this incredible conversation, which I'm looking forward to hearing so much from all of you guys about this incredible production. These three dancers and Val were all in rehearsal for the entire day today, as they have been for weeks and weeks in the past, and we are getting very close to the production week. And they're taking time out of their evening to have a great conversation, which I'm really looking forward to. And I will come back later about halfway through and say hello again. And in the meantime, I'm going to turn it over to Val Caniparoli, the amazing creative voice behind this incredible production that, like I said before, is having its North American premiere here at Kansas City with Kansas City Ballet. Some of the incredible leading artists are with you tonight, that being Naomi, Paul, and Andrew. So I am going to step out. And again, thank you, Val, for joining us tonight.
Well, this is great. Welcome all. This is so exciting. And I'm so happy that the North American premiere of Jekyll and Hyde will be presented by Kansas City Ballet. And there's a background of this. Jekyll and Hyde actually was workshopped first with Kansas City Ballet around 2019-ish, I think. And it was great having that opportunity to work with the dancers of Kansas City Ballet to work out the material and the music with Ramona Pansacrow and just the synopsis and just trying to develop the ballet, which is rare in the ballet world. So it really has its start with Kansas City Ballet. So it's great that it is being brought to North America, but we have the North American premiere here. It's originally produced by Finnish National Ballet. And interesting enough, it was produced during COVID. Finland and New Zealand were the only two countries open and still working. And I was fortunate enough that during this time, we were able to work and create this amazing, if I do say so myself, full-length ballet with Finnish National Ballet and have its premiere. And it probably was one of the only ballets being produced, new ballets at the time, because the rest of the world was shut down. But it was so exciting to work with this and knowing full well that the connections with Kansas City Ballet. And bring it to Kansas City has been exciting. The building is bursting with energy. I could not have asked for a better company for this to premiere with, from the wardrobe department, from the production department, Ramona Pansacrow, the music department, and these incredible dancers that are so collaborative. And working even to improve the production as we speak. Every time you do a ballet, you always see things that you want to improve on and work on. And we are doing that here. We're making it more personable to Kansas City Ballet and their dancers. Today, of course, we had a full run of the ballet all day, and working with Naomi, Andrew, and Paul in the leads all day. So this is exciting that you guys are here. But I want each dancer, Naomi first, then Andrew, then Paul, to discuss working with this production. But first of all, I want each one of you to sort of say your background, what led you to Kansas City Ballet, and what your background prior to this, a brief statement on how you came to this company. It's unusual because usually I come to a company, I don't know the three of you that well. I don't think I've worked with you in other companies. I'm never sure anymore. But it was interesting working with three dancers in a leading role that I've never worked with before. And it was interesting for me to do that. It was also exciting for me, but I'd like each one of you to like sort of discuss where you came from and how you ended up in Kansas City Ballet.
I'm from originally from Japan, and I studied in Canada for a little bit, and I was at Ballet Arizona for 2 years, and Cincinnati Ballet for 3 years after that, and this will be my 5th season with Kansas City Ballet. But I actually, when I came here to audition, Kansas City Ballet was working on Ladies of the Camellias.
Oh, wow.
And so I actually saw the performance as well, for just one night. But yeah, I loved that ballet. That was such a striking, beautiful ballet, and it made me so excited, and I wanted to come here so badly from that performance. But the reason why I auditioned here is because I worked with Devon in Cincinnati. We did his Sleeping Beauty there that year, and I loved working with him, and Christy as well. Christy was such a wonderful ballet mistress, setting the whole ballet with Devon. So yeah, I was so excited when I got the job here, and it's been such a wonderful experience. I felt welcomed right away, and it made me feel valued and deserving of the position, which I had never felt anywhere else. And so it's been so great being here.
Oh, that's great. So there is a connection with us, because you
Yes.
saw Chameleons. I didn't work with you in Cincinnati at all. Do you remember?
No. So the year before I came to Cincinnati, they did Lady, I think, and
Okay.
and the year, so I just missed it a little bit.
Fabulous. Paul, you got the stage here.
I originally started dancing when I was 6, and I stayed at that same studio in South Bend, Indiana for all the way through high school. And then I joined Boston Ballet 2, the second company. That was the start of my professional career. And then after those 2 years, kind of my apprentice years, I was referred to Kansas City by my teacher there, Peter Stark. Peter and Devon Carney know each other very well. And so he thought I would be a good fit here. And yeah, I did the trip to Kansas City, and immediately my first program was amazing. It was a lot of dancing I'd never done before. We did Lila York's Celts, Edward Liang's Wonderland, and Serenade. And it was the first program back from the kind of the COVID hiatus of performing. So it was a very emotional performance for a lot of the dancers that had, were veterans of the company. So that was very, very cool to be a part of when I first got here. Yeah.
Well, yeah, Serenade would be, that's an emotional ballet, especially coming after the pandemic and stuff, I can imagine, especially that ballet. But excellent. And so, Andrew, how about you? How did you end up in this fabulous company?
Yeah, so I started dancing when I was about 11 years old. I started in Houston, Texas, kind of where I was born, where I grew up, in a small little studio. And I was there until someone from Houston Ballet found me, and they talked with my teacher about getting me into Houston Ballet. And so I went to the academy there. I went through the academy, I went through the second company, and I was in the company there for 5 years. So altogether at Houston Ballet for about 10 years. Wow. 3 years in the academy, 2 years in the second company, and then 5 years in the main company. And eventually when COVID came around, there were a few complications with me personally with the company on the COVID stance and COVID policy and all that stuff. So they ended up letting me go because of that. And I had known Devon because he comes to Houston Ballet quite often and talks with and looks at the dancers, and just it is really tight connections with Houston Ballet. And so I kind of known him, but during that time where I was essentially laid off from Houston Ballet because of all the COVID stuff, it was almost going into summer when a former dancer from Kansas City Ballet actually reached out to me, who I danced with in Houston Ballet Second Company. And so he reached out to me and said, "Hey, Devon's looking for some more guys. Are you available? I know it's really late. People don't usually hire people this late in the season." And I said, "Well, actually, by chance, I actually am." And so I was able to come in, and that was last season. So my first season at Kansas City Ballet was last season, and I got to do Giselle here, and that was a wonderful experience. And Cinderella, and just the feel and the friendliness of everyone here, and how everyone works together is just so wonderful, and I love it here for all of that. And it's really been an awesome experience to dance here in Kansas City Ballet.
No, that's great. And I agree with you that the camaraderie and how everyone works together, it's not like that in every company. And it's great creating in that environment, as you can imagine. And a little bit about Jekyll and Hyde. It was written by Robert Louis Stevenson. And a lot of it has to do with altering of your mind. And we all have dual personalities, good and evil. And I've always wanted to create a ballet, not always, but I love that genre of especially in movies and stuff, the monster films and Dracula and the werewolf and stuff. So I was always intrigued by this and intrigued by the writings of Robert Louis Stevenson. And in this ballet, it's a lot about drugs altering your mind, because Robert Louis Stevenson was very sickly. He was not well, and his whole life and since childhood, he's been on drugs. He's been sick a lot, and he wrote this book, this novel, 6 Days and 6 Nights, when he was very ill, on a concoctions of drugs. So he wrote this while his mind is altered, and the whole ballet, the whole story is based on altering your mind, that we have all these different personalities and dual personalities. And Jekyll and Hyde. And in this case, I wanted to do a ballet with Jekyll and Hyde, but not just the one dancer going from good and evil, but two dancers. And in this case, we have Paul and Andrew performing on the same night as Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Paul is Dr. Jekyll, Andrew is Mr. Hyde. I think I got that right, correct?
Yes.
But yeah, so it's been great working with them, and also with Naomi. We developed her character along the line, because the novel does not write a lot about women but they're mentioned in the book. They're mentioned in a lot, but not by name a lot of times. But so we developed Nellie Carew, which is the fiance of Dr. Jekyll, and her relationship is very diverse. It's because she meets up with both of them. And she meets up with Hyde, and she goes, "I know you, I recognize you, but I don't know why you're familiar." So she has to have relationships with two men, but it's the same man. So that's a difficult way of dealing with this as a character and dancing at the same time. So it's like, I want to know from Paul as playing Dr. Jekyll, and Andrew, Mr. Hyde, and also from Naomi, how difficult is that, dancing with two different dynamics? You're really dancing with the same person, where one's good and turning into evil, and vice versa. They go back and forth. So I want to hear from all of you. If we can start with Andrew as Mr. Hyde, how you developing that character, and how working with this and with the music and developing that character.
Yeah, so a lot of it I find comes from it's like you said, with everyone has the two personalities inside them. And it's just figuring out which one to latch onto and how, because Mr. Hyde is a strange character in the way that he is Dr. Jekyll, and Dr. Jekyll has that good side and that side, but he's also very obsessed with his work. And so feeding that into Mr. Hyde, so you can still show that Mr. Hyde is not obsessed with his work, but obsessed with what he wants. And so it's finding that connection between the two while also showing that Dr. Jekyll is essentially a good person who doesn't want to hurt anyone. And Mr. Hyde is the exact opposite, who loves and thrives off of hurting people and causing them displeasure. And so it's also in rehearsal, what I do to find that is, one, taking feedback from Val and some of the other ballet masters on how to best portray the character, but also looking at the choreography that Paul is doing with Naomi and seeing how their choreography is interacting with each other, and then finding ways of using that choreography in the choreography that I have with Naomi, so that you have those connections while still doing it in a way that Mr. Hyde would. And just finding that that almost evil sense in doing it and the pleasure you get from doing certain things.
It is a high in many ways of, that of violence and stuff. And there's this adrenaline in you. And so you can feed on that a lot. And in the story, I have developed Robert Louis Stevenson in this storyline. So he is writing this play, this ballet, or the novel really, as he's on stage. So he's developing these two characters where in true essence is himself. So it's almost an autobiographical novel in many ways, because he wanted to be he was always good. But he wanted to be evil. He wanted to go out to the bad side of London. And he did when he was around 17 or 18, before he got very ill. So he was fulfilling that part of him. So you're on stage and you're also feeding off of Robert Louis Stevenson on stage. So Paul, tell me a little bit about how you developed Dr. Jekyll on that.
Just before we jump in there, Paul, sorry to interrupt you guys. I just wanted to say welcome if you're just joining in to our dancer chat here with Kansas City Ballet. We have a wonderful guest moderator, Val Caniparoli, the choreographer for Jekyll and Hyde, as well as Naomi Tanioka, Andrew Vecseri, and Paul Zusi, who are all three major leading roles within the ballet. And we are having a wonderful conversation. And I don't want to take up much more time about this. If you have any sort of questions, put them in the dancer chat, into the chat box, and hopefully one of the artists will be able to get you an answer. Thank you so much, all of you, for being here and for giving your time tonight. All right, Paul, back to you.
Jumping into the role as Jekyll, I knew at the beginning it was going to be very challenging. It's not like any role I've ever tried to tackle before, especially given that even though Jekyll is a separate Hyde from role, a separate role from Hyde, excuse me, he still has two sides to him. And there are moments in the ballet where you can see the other side come out, and I'm still responsible for portraying that. I don't leave the stage and Mr. Hyde comes out. There are still, Jekyll has violent moments, and I could speak for Andrew in saying that Hyde also has moments where Jekyll takes over. So it's been challenging, but very interesting and very fulfilling to figure out how to tackle that, how to be able to switch on stage, how to be able to really be Jekyll. The book is, it's a pretty short book. It's very helpful material. There's not a ton of detail, so that it takes a lot of figuring out. It's taken a couple runs and a lot of rehearsal to get back, not to get back, but to get further into the mode kind of Jekyll, figuring out his method, figuring out how obsessed he is with his work. because it seems to me, at least, that Jekyll really never gives up the belief that his experiments will work at some point. And he meets with disaster pretty early on in this story that Val has created, and he still when all his cards are on the table and everything is he basically lost everything, he still finds a way to run his experiments, and it does work, just not in the way that he expects. So it's been very interesting to try and sort this out, and for me at least, just repeated rehearsal and run-throughs of the ballet and working with my coworkers is really it's hammering it out.
So Naomi, tell me about your role of Nellie Carew and how you went about creating that, because it's also a very difficult role, because you are dealing with both these characters and it's the same person. So you have to relay that to the audience. I know that's not easy. It's not easy to do.
I think what's so interesting and also challenging about this ballet is there's very little miming, and it's all because in a classical ballet there's a mime section that tells the story, and there's more just dancing. But in this ballet, it's just every movement is really a voice on its own. It's kind of like you're just talking the entire time you're moving, and it's actually it's been so challenging because it's almost like I have to think of what I'm saying before I'm moving in order for that to really translate. And it's hard because also the music is very difficult a lot of the time. So in the beginning of the process, I was just consumed by trying to learn the music, learn the choreography, and learn the partnership. And now I feel like I'm finally getting to the point where I can think of voices rather than just thinking of the movement. And it's been a difficult process, but I've loved it. It's so different, and I think it reads very well when it's done right. So I'm still trying to get to that point. Yeah.
Well, you're doing very well. Close. Yeah. No, it's interesting you mentioned about the music, because that is one of the most important elements of a ballet. Is the music has to help you, especially in a story ballet, help you along with telling the story. And the music is a character of its own. If it doesn't work with that, that does not, no matter what you do on stage, it's not going to work. And I had the privilege of working with Ramona Panskrow on this for almost 6 years. This has been in forever. It seems like we've been working on this and developing scores and developing how are we going to tell this story? And with the synopsis with Carrie Perloff, who was my dramaturge for this, and also with the lighting designer, Jim French, and David Israel Reynoso, the costume and set designer. But we all made meetings and Zooms and stuff to really develop this way in advance of working with Kansas City Ballet or the dancers of Finnish National Ballet. So it's really quite an undertaking. But of course, the music is really key. I think sometimes that's 90% of the ballet. And I think what Naomi's talking about is that music helps you tell that story. But you got to do, there's not very much, you're right, I hate ballet mime. I try to do, I'm glad you mentioned that. through movement, and even sometimes a glance or a look is all you need. You don't have to do all the "I love you" and pointing and this, but it's not easy. I don't know, but all of you are taking to this very well, and really, and having rapport with each other is important. But yeah, so music. It was Wieniawski. Actually it's all Polish composers. Not saying that has anything to do with Poland, but there's something about the dynamics of these five composers, the different generations, but their storytelling, there's some similarities. It's Chopin, Wieniawski, Penderecki, Gorecki. Of course, I'm forgetting the fifth one, but it's the music really helps to pull the story forward. And I got to say, working with Kansas City Ballet, we are improving on it. I'm using the dancers as collaborators. We're finding things and making it work. And I always love, Naomi, when you speak up, or Andrew and Paul, when you say, well, can I try it this way, this way? I want you to do it even more. But I don't want the dancers to be shy, like, can I try it this way? And of course, and I love, and we're developing these characters even more as we go. Even today, we did a bit more of where glances and a gesture on the music, or a pique arabesque on the music, whatever you have it. But it's been exciting to be working with Kansas City Ballet on this. And there's a buzz. There's a buzz about Kansas City Ballet around the world and country. There's a lot of companies bringing their artistic directors to come see this ballet. So there is a buzz, not only in the building in Kansas City, but nationally and sometimes internationally, about this ballet coming to Kansas City Ballet. And I think it's exciting. I think it's great for the company. I think I love it. I actually love it. There was a question. Let me see if I can find that. Something about what the three of you, the question of what are your go-to superfoods for getting performance ready? Which is, yeah, give me mine's cheeseburgers, but that's, So Andrew, what do you?
I don't necessarily have any particular superfood. I mean, for this one, I have a lot of shirtless scenes, so I will say that I'm trying to eat a little bit less to look good on stage. But I would have to say either like sausage links or ground beef, something very protein heavy, to give you that energy and to, well, protein is just so good for you in that way. So, yeah, probably like some ground beef stir fry or some sausage links. That's usually what I go for.
You are shirtless a lot. I could imagine when you're watching what you eat. But yeah, how about Paul? What do you?
I like to make very simple smoothies. They're easy to make even with a cheap blender. I have a protein powder that I like, and these fruit mixers that I get at Target that I really like. But the good thing about smoothies is that I can get all my veggies in. I can stuff as much spinach as I need into that blender and you will never taste it. So that's a convenient way. But I also, same as Andrew, ground beef is good. Some chicken. I find ground beef easier to cook, but sometimes I'll pour some lemon juice on the chicken. It makes it taste nice.
Naomi,
apples are good.
Naomi, how about you?
I'm super Japanese when it comes to food, so I love rice, and we have this rice ball called onigiri, and that's my friends at work know, because I bring 2 rice balls to work every single day. That's my fuel. But I also love chocolate, so chocolate's great before performance. That'll sugar spike.
There's a question. What are some of your favorite emotional moments to watch for in the ballet? I think there's so many. I just the imagery. The ballet, for one thing, is stunning. The design is stunning. The music is stunning. But I just think watching the dancers develop, and Paul and Andrew were saying, where they're developing, they're going from character to character, but their emotions change. And I think I find that great. I find that amazing, even the subtleties of that, to really watch that. Yeah, there's so many. I can't, I don't know if any of the three of you have any of that when you watch the ballet, when you watch your colleagues, your other casting, that there's any emotional points in that ballet that you, so maybe Naomi, if you think of anything?
It's in the beginning of the ballet, but the asylum scene, I hadn't been in the rehearsal room for that particular scene until a couple days ago. I saw it for the first time, and it was just mind blowing. That was, and there's I don't know if I'm allowed to say, but there's yeah, the dancers are screaming vocally out loud, and it's like such a heart-striking moment. It really gets you. Yeah, I love the asylum scene.
You really rarely hear dancers speak on stage, especially in classical ballet. So it is shocking when you hear that, because it is an insane asylum, and once they start vocalizing, it is disturbing. You just go, wow, you don't expect it. And Paul, anything do you see?
One of my favorite moments is right after the insane asylum. His experiment has gone horribly wrong. He knows that everything is about to go down the drain. It just, his experiment failed in front of all of his benefactors, or his potential donors. And when he comes running back on stage just before his solo, that's one of my favorite moments of, here's a man who's truly about to have just lost everything. I also like a lot of the moments in this ballet where it's just eye contact. Nothing is moving, but there are small moments of, even in the middle of a duet or a solo, there's eye contact.
Right.
And it means a lot. It carries a lot of weight, even though there's no motion happening necessarily.
Yeah. And Andrew, how about you? Anything you see?
And honestly, the whole ballet, just every scene has its own emotion. Everything has its own way of getting to you. And so it's hard to say without saying the whole ballet. But it definitely, the scenes that Paul and Naomi have already said, and of course I'm going to have a bias because when you're actually dancing, that's when you're really feeling the most emotional. And so for me, it's the ending bits. And then Paul and Naomi's duet, pas de deux, it's about 15 minutes. It's a very long pas de deux, and it's extremely difficult. I mean, I'm just saying that just from watching it, but it just seems like there's a ton of emotions there that he isn't able to say or show, but he wants to. And then also, for me personally, I would say at the very end of the ballet, where Hyde is struggling with himself. He's struggling turning into Jekyll. He's struggling losing his power. He's struggling feeling again, but also just going insane because his mind is so broken from not having Jekyll there anymore. Because Jekyll was kind of balancing him out, but without that, he's just literally gone insane and starts breaking down in every single way possible. And to see someone's mind do that is very emotional. So I can't say one or the other, but those were the highlights.
It's what's I love it. Love about my ballet. What about the section where you have an entire solo, but it's emotional. It's not a lot of ballet movement, but ballet movements. But you're on the hospital bed. You are now crazy. You're about to die yourself as Mr. Hyde within Robert Louis Stevenson. When Robert Louis Stevenson dies, when he passed away, you all vanish. And that's, to me, I love that scene, but I love it when you're actually on this bed and you don't have a lot of movement, but it's emotional. It's very emotional. And you don't know how to deal with that because you are actually the bad person. But then you feel you feel something for this character. It's odd, very odd in many ways, but I love that scene actually. And you and Cameron do it very well, very well. You both do it differently. So yeah, which is great. So we have a few minutes left. There was one more, which was an interesting question. I don't even know how to answer this. Have you become aware of any Jekyll or Hyde moments in your own personal life? I personally feel that everybody has that good and evil in themselves. And that's what Robert Louis Stevenson is writing about. And, we all have our jealousies. We all have our moments of where you regret yelling at somebody, regret what you said, or that you're mean to somebody, or you go, why did I do that? I mean, there's varying degrees of that. And I truly believe, and I don't know in particular, I'm old, I've had a lot of those in my life, but I don't know if either three of you want to discuss that or talk about that. But I really think we all have that in us, good and evil. I truly believe in that. Is how you harness it. And what's happening now, this is kind of mirroring what's happening in the world right now with what's happening with drugs and drug addiction, fentanyl and stuff. It's destroying our society. We're altering our minds, and you become this nice people, just become evil, horrible people. And this is something that we in a society right now we have to deal with. And I see that's happening, where this is outside influences in your life are pulling that evil out of you, whatever it is. So I think this ballet really, really shows that in many ways. But yeah, so I don't know if you have any comments on that, any of you. And it's a tough one to answer on that way, but yeah.
Yeah, I would say that I very much agree with you, Val, is that everyone has these inside of them, and you kind of get access to, because most people just say, oh, those are those thoughts, and I'm going to stick to these. So they essentially just stick to the Jackal side of things. But I guess those thoughts and all of those can come forth in the way of intrusive thoughts, or just thoughts in general that you're like, why did I think that? It's so crazy. And sometimes that takes drugs to get that out of people. And people always have the two sides, but they always say, oh, that side is crazy. But if you want to explore that, which do so cautiously, very cautiously, this is kind of a great example of seeing what each one is if you separate them as two different characters. So I think it's really interesting to look at all of that and see, okay, this is my thoughts, my two different thoughts that were fighting in my head, separated as two different characters, and you can see them playing out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and and I love doing. I mean, the last scene is powerful. It's where Jekyll and Hyde confront themselves, confront that good and evil, and the confrontation. I've always wanted to do a ballet with two men that they're really portraying themselves, and this was perfect for that. And we started originally with the two men's dance, and that, which you're seeing right now, part of it on the screen, right there with the Finnish National Ballet. These are the two original dancers in it. But yeah, you're confronting this, and we do that all the time in our life. We're confronting our demons in many ways, and this ballet really reflects on that and works that in the especially in the last moment. And it's one of my favorite pieces I've choreographed, sections between these two men. But yeah, no, this is great. Again, Kansas City Ballet, Kansas City should be so proud of this company, and the fact that bringing it here is a testament to, it's the first one in North America. I don't want to stop talking about that, because I think that the city itself should be very proud of this company. It's one of the finest in the country, in the world. And please do come and see this ballet. See your fabulous dancers at the Kaufman stage, because I think you will love it. You will love them. If you haven't seen this company before, come and see them.
Well, thank you, Val. That's quite a send off to this dancer chat. Thank you for all the great questions, both from you, Val, to the incredible artists here tonight, and as well as those who put questions in the chat. Really great conversation. There is an opportunity to see this work, and of course that means got to get some tickets while they're available. You can go to www.kcballet.org and get your tickets there, and only go to that website. Make sure you are going to that website. And the performances are October 13th through the 22nd. As Val had mentioned, there are 2 complete casts of the leading roles, and my suggestion, see them both, because they are both incredible casts, and they both are bringing, like Val had said earlier, their own unique take on Val's works. This dancer chat tonight is brought to you from the Kansas City Ballet Community Engagement and Education Department. So I want to say thank you to that department for organizing this event. And also thank you again to Naomi Tanioka, Paul Zusi, Andrew Vecseri, and Val Caniparoli for your time tonight. They have another full day of rehearsals tomorrow. So I hope to see all of you that are listening and watching at the theater. We are thrilled to be doing this, and we are honored that Val Caniparoli is allowing us to be the North American premiere of this incredible, epic, very unique work here in America. So thank you, Val, for being with us. And see you all at the Kaufman Center for the Performing Arts. Have a great night. Thank you very much.